You make your own money and you're going to that guy? Where Colin is in love with the idea of love and Penelope is in love with the idea of being a Bridgerton. It's like, does he value who she is? She was falling right into the chubby best friend who can't get guys. Let's talk Penelope Featherington. Penelope in season one, despite how beautiful the actress is supposed to be the duff of the season. She has negative suitors. The actress is gorgeous. Enjoy looking at archetypes, and this was Penelope's archetype from the beginning. Penelope was falling right into the normal chubby best friend archetype where she's a little insecure, quiet, and her best friend is larger than life. Eloise is a Bridgerton, and everyone loves Bridgertons. Everything about Penelope's life is a bit lackluster. It's nowhere near what the Bridgertons are. It's almost symbolic. It's just like watching from across the street and wishing that was her life. And in turn, was also in love with Colin. At one point, it's kind of stated, they're like best friends. Every interaction that there was between Colin and Penelope, it did not feel like they were friends whatsoever. And I know that they were writing letters to each other, but I felt zero chemistry between the two. Unfortunately, it seemed like Penelope, a little puppy, admiring Colin all the time. She was falling right into that archetype. She was falling right into the chubby best friend who can't get guys until the end of the season when we find out that poor innocent Penelope is Lady Whistledown. Now, this changed Penelope's character entirely. Instead of Penelope being this sad wallflower, she now has a voice. Not only does she have a voice, but she has an income, and she has a famous voice on top of all of this. Penelope is nowhere near as privileged as Eloise is. She does in fact need a husband. Miss Penelope, she's making some coin with Whistledown. It kind of confused me. This wasn't really something that it seemed that her as a character thought about or even really cared about. It seemed like she was so obsessed with being a Bridgerton. The entire TV series seemed like the only reason Colin and Penelope actually would work well together, both of them live in a fantasy land where Colin is in love with the idea of love and Penelope is in love with the idea of being a Bridgerton. And that's what made Penelope's character fall flat to me. Because as soon as we found out Penelope was Lady Whistledown, that's unique. She's making money. She's profiting. She's witty. She can write. She can write. And I was like, and people want to hear what she has to say. The issue with Penelope being Lady Whistledown was that majority of the gossip she was sharing actually only really harmed women, because back then it was actually just even hard to harm a man's reputation. The only thing maybe would be like gambling and that they're broke. But other than that, men could kind of do whatever they wanted. Majority of Lady Whistledown did negatively impact women. But on the flip side of that, no one has ever treated Penelope well. No one in upper class has ever been good to her. And it's not to say that she should be taking down all the women, because that's not the way that, we wanted her to go as a character. But in the beginning, it made complete sense that she was writing all these things in this gossip column. Basically like, oh, all of you are excluding me. Like, I know all your secrets and I'm going to tell them. Now let's talk about how it's difficult for a duff to move into a romantic relationship. I hated her and Colin together, okay? It doesn't even have anything to do with the fact that I'm not a big fan of Colin as a character, but it has to do with the fact that they had zero chemistry throughout all the seasons until it was their season, and even then, I didn't feel like they had any chemistry. I feel like they had none in their season, okay? That's my opinion. I'm sticking to it. I felt like Colin was in love with the idea of love. It seemed that he was more into the idea of being in love with like your best friend, like, oh, she was under my nose this whole time. Like, he was always searching for a romantic story versus actually falling in love with Penelope. On the other side of that, there was no reason Penelope should have loved Colin. None. I watching it was like, he treated you terribly for a majority of the season. There just wasn't a lot there. I just think there was no way he could possibly have come back from telling those men that he would never marry Penelope and everyone laughing. I was like, how could you love a man who did that for whatever reason he did that for? Here's where I think they should have taken Penelope's character. The love story would have actually felt worthwhile and I would have enjoyed it. We have Penelope who has a glow up, and then Colin decides to help her date, and then as soon as he sees her with another man, he's like, wait, she's for me, like, what am I doing? Pretty straightforward as to why their romance fell flat. There was zero chemistry throughout the seasons of Penelope and Colin, and I know that their engagement and everything was pretty quick, and that was supposed to be excusable because, like, oh, they were friends for years first, and I'm like, we hardly saw them as friends. And every time we did see them, Penelope was like a sad puppy and Colin was oblivious to her. Like, he was basically, again, it was like a dog. Like, I don't know, he said horrible things to those men. And just to put things into perspective, that isn't just like right now someone saying that. The Regency period in the upper class, reputation was everything. People could dance the wrong way and that could mean something, and you wouldn't be able to do XYZ and you wouldn't be invited to the net. Like, the impact that his statement saying that in public could have had on Penelope was like, it was huge. And I'm like, you're gonna forgive him for saying that? Why? Because he's cute? I just was like, what is so amazing about this man? You are witty, you have all of these attributes, you make your own money, and you're going to that guy who didn't notice you for years until you were almost married. All of it just seemed too much like a fantasy. Like, it felt like at the end of the season, Penelope was going to like wake up like, oh, it was all a dream. Am I missing something? Was there like a scene that I missed that really showed the relationship blossoming? Zero signs Colin was even slightly into her. And I'm like, that doesn't just happen over there, or it's not. Maybe that's just my opinion, okay? I'm getting off course. That's why her relationship, in my opinion, the romance arc of that fell flat. And this is what I think they should have done instead. I think that they should have had Lady Whistledown go beyond just trying to be a gossip column. And I think she should have started making fun of the Ton. She should have leaned into her wittiness. And I think people would have still read it. I think that would have been a better arc. We still could have had a glow up. I want to see Penelope come into her own. I want to see her be fierce and want to talk to men, not just to get married though. And I would have liked to have seen Penelope develop completely as a character, drop her crush on Colin, really hone in on that Lady Whistledown and like change the course a bit. Instead of making fun of women and instead of like doing that, I think she should have made fun of the whole class system. I think she should have used her wits in that way. So then when she grew as a character, she would be dressing better, but in public, we could have seen her just being confident. Her story plot could have been how she's going to change Lady Whistledown. And then we could have even had Colin notice her at that point, or another suitor talking to her in passing, and he could have said something along the lines of like, oh, like, I love what Lady Whistledown's doing, you know what I mean? Like, I love that she's making fun of this whole system and yada yada yada. I want to meet her. And then that could have evolved from there. When someone would have fallen in love with her, it wouldn't have been just because she put on a new dress. It would have been her character developed so much that she felt more confident in herself, because we were told from the beginning Penelope is not attractive in the Regency period, and what was fed to us was she is not stereotypically attractive. The Bridgertons are known for being attractive. The fact that, oh, her putting on a new dress and walking in is going to get Colin's attention and it's going to like change things isn't true. And yes, the first time she does it, people kind of make fun of her, and like that's the point. But instead of Colin being the one to kind of get her out of her shell, I wish that she did that herself, because she showed us with Whistledown that she had wit, she had the intelligence to be able to do that. And I think she should have kept up her friendship with the French like dressmaker, and I think she should have gone the other way of like, you know, going more down the Eloise route even, and looking towards like women's rights and looking towards those things, because she was making a lot of money off of Whistledown. That romance story to me would have felt more fulfilling. The Colin romance just didn't make sense to me. Colin just always sounded like he was reciting a script. It didn't sound genuine. It wasn't like an angsty, like, I have to have you. Penelope's character could have evolved so much. Instead, it was like, Colin's mad at her because she was Whistledown, and then she's sad that you could tell she even regrets the fact that she was Whistledown. It upset me that it seemed like they reduced Penelope to just another like love story and just another like glow up and then he loved her. I wish that Colin had to work a little harder for her, and I wish that she was kind of at a point where she grew and was like, I don't even like Colin anymore. And it wasn't a whole thing, but she was looking elsewhere and actually looking elsewhere. She wasn't still like checking to see if Colin was there. Like, I would have loved that for her and for their relationship. And then yes, she still could have got with Colin, but he could have actually saw what she was writing and saw what she was doing as her like Whistledown column could have evolved, and admired her for it. And that's why it's difficult when you start off a series with a supposed to be unattractive character, that you're going to change them into one night they're beautiful. And in the book, she loses weight. So that's more of a significant change, because in the Regency period, similarly to like Charlotte in Pride and Prejudice, not stereotypically attractive, it's going to be harder for you to find a husband. And that's unfortunately the way it was. And that was the harsh reality of the time then, why it wasn't a great time for women. Sorry, my dog's like cold, so she's cuddled up next to me. Those are the challenges when you place a character in the beginning as someone who is not supposed to be seen as attractive. You let them grow as a person so much that you're like, yeah, someone could love them as a person, and then they also are attractive. Colin to me didn't seem like he worked that hard to deserve her at the end, or that he really saw her. Like, I didn't ever feel like Colin really saw Penelope. He had a dream about kissing her and like physically being with her, but I was like, does he value who she is? That Colin seems to just be in love with the idea of being in love. Penelope seems to be in love with the idea of just being a Bridgerton. And I wish for her season she would have jumped over that and she would have fallen in love with herself. I know it's like, oh, fall in love with herself. It's true. I just wanted her to grow. It is totally possible for the Duff friend to have a fulfilling love story and something that we would all swoon at, but I think it has to be done correctly. And I think that the only way it can be done correctly is if we really learn the character and we see them evolve and accept themselves. And I don't feel like we got that with Penelope. I don't feel like she was hashed out anywhere near as much as she should have been. That's what left me not enjoying the season. She's so insecure before and all this stuff, but now she's coming into her own, and it shows that like she is beautiful, but not just because of her exterior appearance, but because of who she is. And she's not a Bridgerton. She's not like conventionally the most attractive person in the room, but she is attractive because she's herself and she's witty and smart. And instead we got this preteen notion that you know, like, oh, put on a new dress. If you like videos like this, give me a like, subscribe. It helps me see what works and what doesn't and what people want to see. Comment how you feel about Penelope and Colin, because I feel like this is maybe a controversial take, but like a half and half controversial take. I'm just curious what my audience or the people watching this video feel. Did you think that Penelope and Colin's love story was a good love story, or did you feel like it fell flat? This is Red Coat Trans. I'll see you guys next time.